Well, we start today with a shift in the balance of power potentially in the Senate. Days after Herschel Walker thankfully was defeated by the incumbent Democratic senator from Georgia, Raphael Warnock. And we said, what great news. It won't be 50-50 in the Senate, but it will be 51-49 in favor of Democrats. Democratic, but shaky Democrat. Let's call her what she is. Shaky Democrat Kyrsten Sinema announces she is leaving the Democratic Party and becoming an independent. Now, I know. Let's resist the urge to call this what it may be at face value, a desperate attempt for attention from someone who, by virtue of the Democrats getting 51 rather than 50 seats, immediately has a diminished amount of power in the Senate, in the sense that she alone cannot prevent Democrats from getting a simple majority. Let's actually sort of talk it through and see what she had to say. NPR reporting, here's what Sinema's switch from Democrat to independent could mean for the Senate. And the article explains Sinema's move is unlikely to change the power balance in the Senate, as it comes days after Senator Raphael Warnock won the Georgia runoff election to give Democrats a 51-49 majority. That includes two independents who caucused with Democrats. Those are, of course, Senators Bernie Sanders of Vermont and Angus King of Maine. Sinema said she doesn't want to fit in a box, and the article goes on to talk about the direction that the Senate could go in, and also talks about Arizona's 2024 outlook, as Kyrsten Sinema is up in 2024. And the fact that she is no longer a Democrat could, of course, mean that now Democrats could hold a primary and have a candidate who runs against Sinema. You could end up with a Democrat, a Republican, and independent Kyrsten Sinema in Arizona. That would change the dynamics of that race, but we're going to table that for the time being. Here's my primary thought about this, and we're going to hear from Bernie Sanders in a moment about this. My primary thought is that this does seem motivated by a desire for attention, particularly with the win by Raphael Warnock. It seems as though the question now is, well, is it 51-49 or is it 50-50? And the question really has to do with caucusing. Angus King and Bernie Sanders are not Democrats, but they caucus with Democrats, and that's where we got for the last 2 years. It's 50-50 rather than 48-50-2. Let's listen to what Kyrsten Sinema had to say. She was interviewed by Jake Tapper about this powerful decision that she made.
You're here to make a significant announcement.
I've registered as an Arizona independent. I know some people might be a little bit surprised by this, but actually, I think it makes a lot of sense.
We're not that surprised, Kyrsten.
You know, a growing number of Arizonans and people like me just don't feel like we fit neatly into one party's box or the other. And so, like many across the state and the nation, I've decided to leave that partisan process and really just focus on the work that I think matters to Arizona and to our country, which is solving problems and getting things done.
Now, understand that being in the Senate and being a Democrat and then saying, I'm leaving the Democratic Party because I no longer fit into that box. Now I'm outside of partisanship. This is one of the silliest things. I mean, we've talked about this before. It's sort of like people who say, I don't vote because I think all of these, Republican politicians and Democratic politicians, none of them have our best interests in mind. So I'm above and outside of the partisan fray by never voting for any of these losers. That's a very political decision. It's still political, and I would argue it is still partisan, because you are basically saying, I don't see an appreciable difference between Democrats and Republicans, even though there are so many differences, that I'm saying they're equally bad and I'm voting for. That's a very partisan and political statement. So this is starting to get into the kind of enlightened centrism that we've been critical of. Let's listen to the rest of her statement here.
So your voting record is pretty capital D Democratic. I mean, your views are generally that of a moderate centrist Democrat. Right. How does leaving the party change how you do your job?
Well, I don't think anything will change about how I do my job. It's Arizonans sent me to the United States Senate to be an independent voice for our state, and I'll continue doing that.
That's a classic, by the way. Oh, I was sent here to be an independent voice, to think for myself. Well, all right. But now, it is interesting, I will mention, that there is footage of Kyrsten Sinema chastising Joe Lieberman for doing the exact same thing, going from the Democratic Party to independent. Now she's doing it, and now it's great. Now it's a sign of virtue. But in the past, she was critical of Joe Lieberman for doing exactly that.
Have been negotiated with the Senate. So what does that mean? Well, in the Senate, we no longer have 60 votes. Some would argue that we never had 60 because one of those was Joseph Lieberman.
Right.
But that's whatever. And Nelson too, but really Lieberman. So now there's, I think as the president so eloquently said on Wednesday, there's none of this pressure, this false pressure to get to 60. So what that means is that the Democrats can stop kowtowing to Joe Lieberman and instead seek other avenues.
Isn't that interesting? The way that they've had to kowtow or will have to kowtow to Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. So the hypocrisy adds to my feeling that this is a plea for attention, and she's getting the attention, and here I am covering it as well because it is relevant. We will have to see if and how this changes Sinema's voting. Let's now talk about the reaction from Bernie Sanders.
I've had such trouble finding a great razor where I am not cutting myself or getting those nicks on my skin, which are so common with the cheap disposable razors. You have to meet our sponsor, Henson Shaving. Henson actually manufactures parts for the International Space Station and the Mars rover, and they are bringing that exact same precision engineering to the shaving experience. It hurts when you shave because blades extend too far and thus they wobble slightly. But with their aerospace grade CNC machines, Henson is able to make metal razors that extend just 0.0013 inches. That's less than the thickness of a human hair, which means a secure, stable blade with the vibration-free shave. It also has built-in channels to evacuate the hair and the cream. No more clogs, no more rubbing your thumb on the razor to get the hair out. I use Henson at home. Shaving is a great experience now. Henson wants to be the best razor, not the best razor business, which means you only need to buy it once and it's awesome. Go to hensonshaving.com/Pacman, add a razor and a 100-pack of blades to your cart, then enter the code Pacman to get the 100 blades for free. That is a 3-year supply. The link is down below.